Well, again, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. I know how busy everyone is. A lot to cover in the area at this time of year. So we've just concluded our 12th practice of fall camp, and really, I'm sure you have your share of questions. So let's just open her up.
This year feel different for you?
A little bit. You know, I think last year heading into this time, I think the unknown was there a little bit of where we felt good where we were headed. We felt we had kind of hit our stride as a little bit as, you know, what we were going to do internally in the culture of the program. Our players were doing the things that we needed, but of course we're still short in the win area. I think you look at the body of work of last year, pleased but not satisfied of where we were at. But so heading into it, I think there's a lot more confidence all the way through the program within the players' locker room and the staff room, and we're excited to get going.
How much were you able to sense during last season about, maybe we could be even better next year? Are you able to do that a year out at all?
I think so. I think when you look at it, where we are as a football program, I think when you look at your roster and, based on who's returning by grade and experience and snaps, I think all those things started to show itself. But I still think those last three games were so important of where we were at and where it put us heading into the off season and reaching bowl eligibility and doing those things. I think kind of ended it on the high note there for a while, and then kind of on a downer where we didn't get a chance to play the 13th game. But yes, when you start at your quarterback position and you have underclassmen there and very productive, you look at your skill positions and all of them, and a highly talented wide receiver and a couple other young guys that have been productive, that gives you a chance. And, of course, though, you're still going to win games up front on both sides of the ball, and those are still some of the pieces that continue to be put together. But on paper, and I think obviously what kind of happened in the offseason, what's happened for some of those guys, I think that's where the notoriety of your program can come when you see players, especially at skill positions, kind of get some national attention, and that's been exciting for our program as we head into the opener.
What did you learn about your team that maybe you didn't know at the end of last season with that 3-game winning streak that you've really been able to use to kind of springboard into the spring and into the fall?
Well, Nick, I don't know if it was necessarily those last three, but because I think it started to show itself early, and I go back to the Minnesota game and Army games, tough losses for us that kind of showed the character of our football team. Really, the post-game locker room at those times, the dejection, the tears that showed about how important the game was, and winning games was going to be for this team, and they were not going to be satisfied by playing games close. I think that was one part early in the year, and then watching them go kind of through that middle of the season and the perseverance that we saw those last 3 games. Because we talked about it after the Akron game, a very tough, close loss, one that we felt we should have had, and really where we're going to go from that point on to play out the season and still have a chance to be bowl eligible. We went on the road a couple of days as coaches recruiting, gave the players a few days off, and I've said this before. We took the field for the first time, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't recall exactly. It was the first day we went out there because that was our first real gap of the season, and we probably had our best our best practice that we had maybe all season of the regular season at that point, which really showed where this team was at, and they were not in a point to kind of give up on anything or kind of finish it. And I really think that to me was a big part of where this program has gone, with the leadership we have in that locker room, and hopefully those are the things we're gonna build upon this season.
Do you get the sense that it takes time and maybe winning experience kind of build a winning culture?
Yeah, I think it does. I think when you go into a program and you try to build your culture and do things, do I wish we would have been, we've been able to get a few more of those last year? I think we'd be having a slightly different conversation. I think it's pretty well documented, some of the things that we've gone through in this program. some really tough things, and that have probably maybe slowed down the process a little bit of building the culture that we wanted to, just based on, standing here a couple of years ago with 42 new players. Those things take time then. But at the same time, I think it's true across the country, depending on the situation you come into and the uniqueness of this of our athletic department and our football program, because we are so young yet in the FBS football world. So and the path in which this university chose, and one that I highly agree with, to be where we're at. Okay, but being on the fast track also makes a lot of growing pains. And when you do that, the tradition of things to fall back on are very few and far between, unfortunately, when you look at some of those things. But where we're at now, and the commitment of our leadership and administration and what we're being able to do is making this a very exciting time.
How important is it for the guys to look back at last season and know that maybe one thing here or there, they maybe win a couple more games, to use that as motivation moving forward versus maybe just wiping the slate clean and forgetting about it?
I think it's important. It's something, though, I think that we've talked about from day one. I think Andy Kolnicki, our offensive coordinator, does a great job. We've always talked about, any football game, really, it's 3 to 5 plays. But we talk a lot of times. It might be a photo on a screen, or he might be like this. We started, we always say, "What's this?" It's the difference, and it's always the difference. It's sometimes the difference in being successful or not. It's the small things. It's in the details. It's in daily improvement, and I think our players have embraced that. And they look back. Our guys they're committed and passionate about what they're doing. They look back at those 3 to 5 plays per game, and they know what possibly could have been. But there's some other parts of those games that sometimes we look at the ones that didn't go our way. There are some close ones that we made go our way too. So they kind of balance out. But I think this group knows that it's about each and every day. Like I said, in camp, we have to keep working to get better. And that, the nice thing is the confidence factor that we knew that we were lining up and playing with some really good football teams. You take a team like a Western Michigan that played in the Cotton Bowl just a year before, and the amount of prospects that they had last year and the year before on that field for them, and you go toe-to-toe and slug it out for 7 overtimes. I think those were character building and team building type things for us to put us in a position that we can go out and play confidently all the time.
Lance, in dealing with the expectations and getting your team to understand them really for the first time in a long time around here, have you thought back or tapped into some of the things you used to do at Whitewater when you were dealing with expectations that had one ending goal for you there?
Yeah, a little bit, and that's not talk about them. They're on paper. Okay, those same things that I kind of thought about, because I had a feeling, Paul, that would come up today. And one of the things is, there's a lot of, and I'm happy for our players that have been put on watch lists and do things, but, we haven't played a game since that 6th win last year that left us out of bowl games, okay? And those same guys did all those things that put us there, but somehow we didn't get chosen to play a 13th game with all those guys that have all these accolades as much as anybody, but we didn't get chosen, so it's just on paper. And you don't win games on paper. You got to go out and play. And our players and those guys and those individuals know that. Those are nice. Those are building blocks, so to speak. But for them individually, but more importantly for our football team to go out and do it, we have to go out and prove ourselves again. And, right now it's in practice, but it's more importantly, when we kick off on September 1st.
Do you get a sense that the guys feel, I don't know what the right word would be, but slighted or want to go out and prove the committee's wrong, like, hey, you guys really screwed up not Do they take it personally, I guess?
I think they do, but that's a good thing about maybe being in Buffalo, because it's great to have a chip on your shoulder sometimes, and go about it. And just like everything else we have to do, you have to earn it and prove it. So you can have that extra motivation, but when the ball's snapped, you're not worried about what was done in the past or what might have been good or bad. You have to go out and play well. So back to kind of putting both these questions together is that one of the things we always found at our last stop is that to be successful, you have to keep looking forward about how you're going to get better within your program, with what you're doing maybe in practice schedule, or how we travel, or what we're doing nutritionally, or what we're doing in the weight room. We're always looking to improve, just like we ask our players to improve. And you don't have a lot of time to sit there and look in the rearview mirror to sit there and talk about how good it was or how great that season was. Just like the same thing with guys, getting some early season nominations. That just gets you on. That should get you on the list to get noticed. Now you got to go out and keep showing that you can do it. Same thing with us. Wherever someone may think we may be, and it's still going to be a highly competitive division for us. It's a highly competitive month of September with games on the road and high quality opponents, that have really had some of the similar things that we have, coming in here. So, again, it's a day by day thing. I know it may get boring for you as you cover it to kind of hear those things, but it really has to be that way. If you start looking at possible things down the road, you're going to stub your toe. And it wasn't too long ago. Unfortunately, we opened the season with a very disappointing opener. So, those things also always have to be right, as well as some of those good things that happen. You got to remember other things that haven't to make sure that you're checking all the boxes.
Last year, I think after the first 4 games, Tyree was maybe your leading rusher right up there. When he comes back, you guys weren't really running at all. Running him at all. How do you balance his ability to run the ball?
Well, your healthier quarterback's going to be very important. So we have to be wise with that. Drew Anderson's not in the program. Kyle Van Treese is now running with the number 2s, and those are things we can't play or coach hesitant in what we're doing. We kind of balance in what we're doing. I think you saw a different quarterback those last 4 games of the season, but I think that also is part of the maturation of the quarterback position of a guy who's now more comfortable in the pocket, and it's not escaping one way to try to make a play happen and keep it alive by going laterally. Sometimes it's stepping up in the pocket and having confidence, and then finding maybe a second, third, or even fourth receiver. And I think we'll have balance. And I think once again, when somebody returns during a season from an injury, there is always going to be a little hesitation, especially with a leg injury. I think as time goes on, he's more than 100%. He's ready to go, and I think you'll see him be able to use his legs to create plays for us again.
But the guys
I'm sorry. Can we'll go back one time? I'm sorry.
12 days into practice, full practice is in. It's media day, kind of the unofficial halfway point of this fall practice, if you will. Expectations and all that you've talked about, put last season behind us. How are you feeling today? 12 practices in, about halfway through, as we get ready for September 1st.
I'm excited about this team. Not just but the things we've talked about, is just how they've gone about it. Yeah, we're in the middle of camp, and like anyone that's going through camp right now, the legs are sore, the body's sore. You're not quite moving at the same burst that you had a week or so ago, but that's part of it. But at the same time, they understand what we're doing. This has probably been our smoothest camp to date, as far as just the execution of the daily routine, which are some very long days. And I think we've had a great, some of the new rules that have changed in college football the last few years. The elimination of 2 practices, more walkthroughs, a day off, all those things has helped our players and our staff stay fresh. And again, with the experienced players that we have in our leadership of what we've been able to do, the conditioning that and the strength and conditioning that Lou Corral and his staff have done in the off season, again, very pleased with where we're at this time, but yet plenty to work on.
With the guys who have been on the preseason, watch list, Tyree, James, Khalil, Anthony, how do you now obviously there's going to be adversity during the season, But do you plan on, or have you talked to them about, hey, stay the course? There is going to be the spotlight. Don't try to play outside of yourself and do something that you shouldn't be necessarily doing.
Do we ever have that kind of? We try to talk, again, one play at a time. I think for those individuals, we can't press. They can't get hung up. Again, it's not just their stats that has gotten them to this point. It's how they play the game, how they've practiced. Sometimes it's their measurables that get people's attention. Okay, those things take care of it. So we said, we've had, to this point, I think after today, I think we've had 17 NFL teams in here already. Okay, they watch them practice. We talk about it all the time. They're going to watch your practice habits, how you go about. They ask questions. So those things, as they go through, whether it be a watch list or anything like that, because those watch lists, we're happy to have them on, but those are pretty long lists too, okay? So they have to keep going. What they have to understand is that their plays and opportunities are going to come, but the better this football team is, from top to bottom, and the depth we have, the better off everyone will be. And by doing that, they have to help the younger players. They have to show them how to practice. They have to help them with the schemes, with alignments, whatever it may be, and it'll allow them also to have more success, because that may allow their backup to play a little bit more. And then they're fresher in the fourth quarter, whatever that may be. So we're just focusing on this team getting better. And then, of course, as they come, their opportunities. And, when it comes to any of our offensive players that have been on any of those lists, we feel there's enough weapons that it's going to make it difficult for people to defend everyone. And then with that, one guy may have a great game statistically based on opportunities or the reads of the play. And then it might be the next guy the next game. So we're excited for that, and we want to keep building as many players as we can to help that offense be successful, and of course our defense to do the same.
The offensive line has been a strength for a few years now, and James has kind of been there through all of it.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of steadying presence does he provide that for?
Yeah, it's one of those you kind of hope he try to sign him to a 4-year extension right now or something. It's one of those things with him. He's played about 99% of the snaps since we've been here as a staff. But the thing about James that makes him special, he's passionate, loves the game. He's in this office area more than any other player in our program. And that's what it's because he's helped mentor now a lot of those younger guys. But the calls, the understanding, and everything else has really been special to have him. And that, it starts up front, like I said earlier, and to have him be that leader. And now we plug a guy here and there. Paul Nosworthy is now kind of the newcomer to the starting group in that group, and James really made it a point to spend a lot of time with him. Somebody's lining up next to keep him, to get on the same page, to understand what they're thinking, what the calls are, and all those. And that's what you need from your seniors. That's what you need from your leaders.
Are you close at all about deciding who's going to wear 41?
Not quite yet. Not quite yet. Yep.
What did Jim Zebrowski bring to the offense last year, and how much does that dynamic change, or what more can he bring in his new role?
Well, Jim brings an awful lot to our whole football program. Worked with Jim. Working with Jim in the past, he has an infectious personality. First of all, one that that our players really enjoy being around. Jim's a kid at heart, and really when it comes to it, he loves the game of football, and that's evident when he's on the field and when he's coached. But yet he's demanding. His knowledge of the passing game. He's passionate about it, doing a lot of small things, and whether it be with receiver splits, concepts, things like that, has really kind of helped he and Andy, really work well together, as well as our, I think one of the things that Jim brought to our offensive staff is that essentially all those guys that I had worked with before, and I think the continuity and being on the same page was very evident last year, and probably more so maybe than we were in the past. And it really helped our offense take another step.
Will he be calling the plays?
No, Andy's calling the plays at this time, yes.
You mentioned last year with Jim, he had a high school team. I think they went for it on fourth down almost all the time. Is that something you see that influence coming into?
Yeah, that was at Lakeland College. That's where he had coached before he joined us at Whitewater. And but yeah, Jim's one of those guys, that probably would never punt. But I think so. I think there's some things that, you look at the game of football and college football in particular is how it's changed, and a lot of things, whether it be with tempos and possessions and a lot of things, and again, to me, it's a lot of it is the flow of the offense and how we play in that particular day. You are going to have fourth downs, but there's a lot of things that could happen in there that, again, could see us going for it more. Like I said, would Jim's influence be there? Absolutely, because I think every time it is fourth down, I sometimes hear Jim in the headset going, "Go for it." So it could be 4th and 24, and Jim would still want to find a way to go for it, and that's great. And that's great because one of the things that I think personally as a head coach that's had to be a little bit of a transition is sometimes when in the last stop, we probably personnel-wise and other ways, we were probably on the positive side of it more often than not, where you feel you can play field position and time and things like that, and you're going to find a way to win the game and wear people down. Where we're at and building the program and doing things like that, sometimes you got to make sure you keep the ball in your hands and you got to be aggressive. And I think, I thought last year, that was one of the things we decided from the get-go is that we were going to be aggressive, and I think you saw that in the first couple series of the Minnesota game, that we were going to take our shots down the field and do things, and I think you'll continue to see us be that type of team.
Lance, you've been so many guys returning in so many spots on both sides of the ball, but have there been some younger players or unknown players that have started to emerge through this camp that may begin to form the next generation a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mentioned Paul Nosworthy. These guys are backup offensive linemen. Coyote Awashika at the right tackle spot is one that, has had a good spring and played a little bit early last season, was forced into duty the first 4 games last season, him and Jaquise Webb on the offensive side. I think we have young running backs. I know we've talked a lot about Emmanuel Reed and Jonathan Hawkins, and rightfully so, but Kevin Marks and, Jared Patterson's been slowed by an injury. I think those are 2 young players offensively as well. Charlie Jones is a young man that has had an excellent camp. We've been excited about Charlie, a redshirt freshman out of the Chicago, Illinois area. Isaiah King, maybe the fastest player on our team as a young wide receiver. Are just a couple. Defensively, I think Tyrone Hill has had he had a good spring, and I think he's had an outstanding camp as a young man, redshirt sophomore at the safety position that we really need to step up, and I think he's really answered that. Really happy with the camp he's had. James Patterson, a true freshman, the twin brother of Jared, who enrolled in school last January, is competing for the starting job at the will linebacker spot. Those are just a few. Eddie Wilson, also enrolled from Milford Academy Prep School in January, has a chance to rotate in as a defensive tackle. As some of the younger guys. Joey Banks, junior college transfer, is another one that been slowed by injury at the safety spot. When you start reading, you always leave somebody out, but I know I'm leaving a few. Again, I think the safety position, our defensive tackle position, is one that we had questions in the spring. Practice this year. We're getting some better answers. Our defensive tackle position could play up to 8 people in rotation, and that's a lot. But I think we've had some guys, some older guys in there, some guys that haven't played a lot, but I think it's a position where we'll be able to play a lot of people.
Coach, with the new redshirt role where you can get some of those guys in and not have to burn that up, is Matt Myers, obviously a local kid quarterback, someone we might, late in the game, if it's out of hand or whatnot, might be able to see get some run?
It's a little early to tell on that. It's a great rule. First of all, I guess I should comment on the rule, and for anyone that may not know, the NCAA changed the rule on redshirting in college football this year. It used to be without injury, if you played 1 snap, you used a year of eligibility. Now you can play up to 4 games and save a year of eligibility for the young man. Matt's done fine in camp. We're really excited about his future. He's still competing with the other quarterbacks, so that's kind of a wait and see. You hope we stay healthy, a lot healthier than we did last year, but that does give you an opportunity, depending on how game flow is, the healthier football team with a Matt Myers or any of our young players. And the nice thing is with this rule is many times you make a decision to redshirt a young man and he's on scout team the rest of the year. Now we have a chance to keep that young player engaged, keep them practicing within the schemes weekly, and it may be a chance when you do get banged up, and that was the reason why the rule was put in, is sometimes that last half or third of the season, you get really low in at a position or two, and then all of a sudden you've asked that young man to redshirt, and then at the last game or two you had to burn the year on that, and then it really didn't do the student athlete really justice. So for him or any of our young players, we're excited about that, the opportunity that may present. We have to kind of wait and see how it all unfolds. Some of our other players that may be more able to be contributors in special teams will have an opportunity to do so. And, like I said, I think it's a great rule for college football, and I think one that you may see implemented in our other sports across the board.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you for your time.
Again, thank you everyone for being here. It means a lot for our program. Thank you.